Leon Lifeson, child of leaf and whin, born beneath the verdant eaves of the Vain Elder, the forest of Aletia, now found himself curled in a crevice of tumbled rock and earth. A shaft of daylight plunged through the narrow opening overhead. It occurred to him that this must be what the graves of the mortal dead were like, deep, desolate, though infinitely darker than this. How did the mortal humans stand it, knowing their lives were so short, spanning but a mere breath of an Elysian's eternal life? That this was where it would end for them, deep in the earth, fodder for worms. And how they struggled to fill that brief life with all the passions humankind could muster. They struggled as the salmon swimming upstream, only to end forever in nothingness. He did not understand why they did not just collapse in despair, but perhaps he could better appreciate why they clung to myths of their gods and an afterlife. These beliefs of theirs, false or not, gave them hope, allowed them to continue on. Leon shook his head. One day, perhaps, he would discuss the peculiarities of mortals with Eldane or maybe Telagiath. He never used to care, but now that he had traveled among and with humans, he'd become curious and taken an interest. But that was for another time. At the moment, it appeared he had a problem. The rupture force of the shattering of the looking mask had thrust him, and likely his other companions, out of Blackveil. One moment he'd been standing in the dying remains of Castle Argenthine, and the next he'd found himself in this crevice somewhere else. He uncurled himself to climb up, mindful of loose rock that tumbled clattering down if he misplaced his weight. When he reached the rim, he peered cautiously over it, observing only more rocky rubble awash in thin sunlight and stunted scrub trees growing from between black-flecked gray granite blocks. The air smelled poorly and unclean, of acrid smoke that burned the back of his throat. He pulled himself the rest of the way out, noting that this upheaved terrain was not just a rending of the land, but the obliteration of some great human work, for the edges of the rubble had not been formed by nature, but by tools. There was also evidence of some great conflagration, for soot adhered to the bottoms and fissures of rock not exposed to weathering. He turned and found a face of stone staring back at him. Its sculpted planes cracked and stained, its beard crumbled away, the remnants of a crown about its temple. The rest was lost beneath the rubble. Despite the ruins and the ill air of the place, it confirmed he was no longer in Blackveil. He knew this place, and he did not. The Etheria was nearly gone, sick, dying. A being infused with Etheria, as all Elysians were, he could sense inside himself its waning light. It was not just that it was tainted, but that it was almost gone from the land, from existence. And so it was with his home. No matter where an Elysian may be, he could always sense Aletia, the water running through the alluvium, life throbbing through root and leaf, the spirit of his people. Even in the depths of Blackveil, he had felt Aletia as a strong presence within. He placed a trembling hand on his breastplate, over his heart, seeking but failing to feel a stronger awareness of his people. So alone, so bereft, the despair almost broke him to weeping. Instead, he turned his attention to the devastation around him, the jutting angles of hand-cut stone, rotting, sooty timbers. The ruin was upon a high hill, and more stretched all the way to its base, where a city, a human city, stood. It was all symmetrically laid out, long rectangular buildings set in precise rows, their huge chimneys spewing filth into the sky. False streams glinted among them, too perfect to be made by nature. Humans called them canals. He made out streets straight as swords, and more buildings of varying size and shape, but still precisely placed. There was little green among the structures, and nothing of nature in the design, no curves, no turnings, which made it all so foreign to Leon's Elysian eyes, so difficult to reconcile in his mind.